Hello, everyone. My name's Joshua. I'm here with Bryan, and we are part of the Music Commission for the National Association of Free Will Baptists. And we're excited to talk with you for a few minutes today about a brand new website and also just music ministry in general. And I want to encourage you, before we get started, to share this with your friends. If you're watching this, share this video with your friends. Help get the word out. And also follow us on social media. You can find us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube, all at FWB Worship, at FWB Worship. And I want to tell you about a giveaway before we get into the content. And that is, we're going to give away a $100 Amazon gift card to one person who subscribes to our brand new YouTube channel. So we're trying to get to 100 YouTube subscribers, and we just launched the channel just a few weeks ago. So if you go to FWBWorship.com/YouTube and subscribe to our YouTube channel, we will enter you for a random drawing of a $100 Amazon gift card. And who doesn't want an Amazon gift card, right, Bryan?
That's right.
Yeah, so FWBWorship.com/YouTube to subscribe to our YouTube channel and help us get to 100 subscribers. So as I mentioned, we're excited about a brand new website. It's FWBWorship.com. And Bryan and I have been working on this site for the last several months, and we're excited about its launch. It's live now, ready for you guys to view. So Bryan, tell us, first of all, what is this website for?
Yeah, Josh. Man, we've been praying that God would allow us to do this for a long time now. And so it's really come to fruition of really being here, getting crunch time, getting it all done. So one of the things in our mission of really why the commission exists, we really want to help everyday people to become better worship leaders. And so that's what we've put as our mission on our website, to direct those people that may not do this as a full-time thing, that may not be even paid for it, to give them opportunity to go somewhere, to have resources available, to create training opportunities for them, and maybe even a place to ask questions about something that maybe a topic that comes up in their mind a lot, or maybe even in their ministry that they face and they just need some input on. And so we wanted to create a site that would be a help or a tool to them. And so that's really our heart. That's our mission in what we're doing in creating this site.
Yeah, so we know that most Free Will Baptist churches, especially, they don't have full-time worship leaders. Maybe you're just, if you're watching this and you lead worship at your church, maybe you're just part-time, or maybe you're just a volunteer. And we want to really resource you guys during with this site, with FWBWorship.com. It's really for you, for the everyday volunteer person who just want to help you become a better worship leader, as Bryan said. So, Bryan, there's several things on the site now, but what about in the future? What are plans for the site in the future?
Yeah, we'd love to see the site grow and tools that are available to the people that are there. A couple of things that are currently on the site is just how to do some choir leading, preparing for those things. And so there are some tools that are available right away, but just in the future, we're thinking about, I know Kevin Justice, who is another commission member, is he's going to be developing some videos on how the relationship between the worship leader and the senior pastor, how that plays and the importance of it. And so he's going to be working on that. Another guy that's helping us out with some commission stuff and at our national convention is Tony Cooper, and love his input on many levels. One of the things he's working on is identity. We are created to worship. What does that look like? How do we even deal with those things? And some upper level things as well. Some people are stuck to reading sheet music as it is. Some people do chord charts, and some people use the Nashville number system. And so Tony's going to be developing some videos on how to utilize the Nashville number system. What does that mean, and how can that enhance your band and really your whole worship as a whole?
Yeah.
And so we've got some things coming down the line that'll be very helpful for that too.
Yeah. Yeah, we've got videos on there currently from Kevin Denton, who's a worship leader in North Carolina in Goldsboro, right? He's in Goldsboro.
That's right. Yeah, Faith
And
Church.
then Sam Harris is, as you mentioned, he did some stuff on choir. We've got stuff from Daniel Webster from Welch College, who talks about maximizing musicians for ministry. And like you said, hopefully we plan on just having more and more resources added regularly, mainly videos, but also some blog content, some articles, links to various resources and things like that. So I hope you'll visit FWBWorshipcom today if you haven't. And I want to tell you about one of the features on there, a video series that I did called How to Plan a Worship Service from Start to Finish. That was a fun series for me to do, just really think through. I broke down how I plan a worship service and all the steps. Ended up being 11 videos. That maybe sounds overwhelming, but most of them are like 7 or 8 minutes long. So it's not that much content, but 11 videos that just walk you through every step from starting with step 1 all the way to leading worship, how you can plan a worship service. And so I hope that those are helpful for you guys as well. Anything else, Bryan, about the site you want to mention?
Yeah, just in the future, as we get back to hopefully having in-person conventions and info about that, we'd love to be able to put some information about upcoming convention, not just stuff that's happened from the commission, but also how can you be involved in the choir or orchestra? What are things that we're in need of right now? Seminars that we have coming up, and so that's going to be some future stuff that comes. Also, we have a contact that you can contact us with questions. What we'd love to do through that is possibly build a FAQ section of maybe some frequently asked questions that are there that are easily searchable. One other area that we're looking at creating is some sample orders of worship. Like you said, you did your 11 video series on how to plan a worship service. That is critical for stepping through, and not everybody has to do it the same way, but man, there's what I always call nuggets of information that I get that I pull and use in my ministry that are very vital to that. And so we'd like to put some orders of service out there that we use and some other guys have used that may be a template for any church to use in any type setting. So we'd love in our future, as the site develops, to see those happen as well. So looking forward to that happening.
Yeah. So I hope you'll go to FWBWorship.com today. And if you haven't yet, I don't know why you haven't, pause this video and go subscribe to our YouTube channel, because you might win a $100 Amazon gift card. You can do that at FWBWorship.com/YouTube. Help us reach 100 subscribers soon. I think we're cutting that off August 1st, right? That's when the cutoff is. So you got to subscribe before August 1st, and then we will choose a winner and be sure to announce that on our social media platforms.
Yeah. FWBWorship.com/YouTube.
Right.
Go subscribe now to that.
Yeah. Well, let's talk for a little bit about worship leading. Bryan, why don't you, you've been a part of the music commission for a long time now. How long?
Since, if I'm
12
thinking
years?
correctly, it's probably been about 12 years. Yeah.
Okay.
Scott Bullman was still on the commission at the time when I came on as a kind of an advisor, if you would say, and Donnie Burke got me into helping out with the booth a little bit. So that kind of got my feet wet on everything that was happening.
Yeah.
We been part of the commission for a while. I've, just served in a couple of churches. We started out, my family and I, in 2002 at Tippett's Chapel in Clayton, North Carolina, under Eddie Moody's ministry, there for about 12 years, and then have been in our current ministry here at Peace for almost 6. And this is my home church where I grew up. So it's been kind of surreal being back here and serving here at my home church at Peace.
Mm-hmm.
So how about you guys, Josh? Tell us a little bit about your family and just a background, what you've got there.
So I have been leading in worship ministry for about 17 years now. My wife and I met at Welch College, and we were married after my junior year. And the same in May of that year, I started working at Woodbine Church part-time as the music minister, and we got married in June. And so we were there for about 3.5 years or so while I was finishing up school, and then a little bit after that. And then I took my first full-time position in Greenville, North Carolina at Trinity Church. And I was there for about 4.5 years. And then we moved where I am now to Broken Arrow, Oklahoma. And at Bethany Church, Pastor Randy Wilson is the pastor here. And so I've been at Bethany for 10 years, almost 10 years now. And the Lord has really blessed us. My wife and I have 5 children. We, as you're watching this, we just adopted our foster child that we've had for 2 years. And so now we have 5 children, and the Lord has really blessed us.
That's awesome. You know, there's always a part of ministry that we that defies, I guess, what we are up against many times. That's our struggles that we face. And obviously through our current struggles that we're going on, what are some things, even outside of COVID, that you have seen as struggles that you've experienced or maybe even currently experiencing?
You know, it's interesting. We were talking earlier before we started recording. All of us, it doesn't matter what church you're at or what size church or what kind of resources you have, how many people you have on your team. Everybody experiences the same basic core struggles. And that's true of us here at Bethany. You know, with COVID-19, there have been some significant struggles in the last several months, especially as it relates to music and worship. And like you guys, and I'm sure every church, we had to figure out how to do this online thing better. And so one of the struggles that we've been currently experiencing are just tech related, just trying to figure out how we can sound good on Facebook, you know, and how we can not have a blurry image, and how the video doesn't skip. And you know, it's just stuff that everybody is experiencing. We're battling the same things. Just 2 weeks ago, on Sunday, you know, everything is going fine. You know, we got through the music portion of the service. Randy, our senior pastor, gets up to speak, and he's about 10 minutes into the sermon, and the live stream just quit. Just the software just totally died. And so we scrambled to get it back up, and we never could get it back on Facebook. We streamed to Facebook and YouTube. And YouTube, it came back on, but Facebook, it would not come back up. And so I just had to send out a message to our church, those watching online, which is still a pretty significant portion of our church congregation. I sent a message and said, I'm sorry, we're having technical issues this morning. We will repost the video later on, you know. So we're just figuring this out like everybody else. We jokingly said we accomplished in about 2 months what it would have taken us about 10 years to accomplish as far as the tech side of things. You know, we upgraded cameras, and I'm sure every church said, okay, we've got to figure this tech thing out. So that has been a significant struggle. And sort of changing gears, the other struggle is just managing or trying to figure out how we can best minister to our people
Mm-hmm.
when a lot of them we're not seeing in person. We've been having in-person services for the last 8 or 9 weeks, and we have about 30% of our congregation that shows up to in-person service. Of what normally before COVID, we have about 30%. And we're finding that that's true almost across the board. It's just, even if you're having services and you don't have a lot of cases in your state, people just aren't ready to come back to church yet. And so one of the struggles that we are experiencing is, how can we best minister to those people who are not coming to church and we're not able to connect with them online, or we haven't been able to. We're just concerned about those people who are sort of on the fringe. We want to figure out the best way we can minister to them. So what about you
Yeah,
guys? What struggles are you experiencing? Or
ours are very similar. We were not online before this, so we've done local stuff, and recorded to DVD for our shut-ins and stuff like that. So we had the technology there. We just weren't streaming yet. So it pushed our timeline up immensely, which, was a bit of a challenge to make things smooth and excellent, and, get your mouth to move at the same time the words are coming
right.
out. So that was a struggle, and just the from week to week challenge of what to expect. We didn't know where the lines were going to be drawn on how many people you could have in a certain facility.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were trying to figure all that out and making our teams available for that. And ours are very much the same in just the communication with our people. I mean, we were able to do it online, but we had quite a number of people in our church, elderly, that had no access to Facebook, or they didn't have even an email. So it was very important to us to call them, on the phone. And so we did that as a staff. We split up our membership and started calling people and just checking in on them. And just that little touch that was made, I tell you, it's done a world of good. But you're right. We're about the 30% mark. That's exactly right, of who's coming back. And that's been a little frustrating, and I get it. I understand their resistance to exposure. We don't know what to expect.
Yeah.
And so that's been a big challenge for us as well.
Yeah. I think the hardest part for us, at least currently, we just had staff meeting this morning, and we're looking at, the rest of the fall, all of the fall. We even talked briefly about Christmas. Like, what is Christmas going to look like? And I think the hardest part is just the unknown. And, we try to make the best decisions possible, but then those get changed, or we get more information, and then you throw in all the political stuff, and you don't know who to believe and what's actually accurate. And that's frustrating, because we want to be together. We want to have church, but we also want to be good stewards and not unnecessarily put somebody at risk of getting sick. And so just balancing that it's just a constant tension that we're trying to manage right now. I don't think anybody's figured it out, but it's a constant tension.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So we actually we probably could talk about COVID for the next hour and a half, but we actually recorded another video that we will link to, and I want to encourage you to watch. It was basically a roundtable, right, Bryan? Do you want to tell us about it?
Yeah, absolutely. So Chad Donahoe, who is at Bethel Church in Kinston, joined us along with Tony Cooper and Kevin Justice on this call. And we were just basically talking about what struggles we had faced, what are some things that we had seen. And I remember distinctly in that conversation, Kevin Justice pointing out that now that we are online so much more, it truly has become the front door of our church, and how important that is to our church to have a good presence online, and really think through those things that I had not thought through before. And what it means to, even as we are streaming now, to include that online audience in just a dialogue.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was very good. And I guess for me, I walked away going, well, this is exactly what I felt the whole time. All these other guys have felt the very same way. So
Right. Right.
it drew my heart to that for sure.
Yeah. So if you want some encouragement, also there were some good ideas because
Yeah.
each of our church had some different ideas on how we're ministering to people during this time. So if you want to dive a little deeper on worship leading and as it relates to COVID-19, go to FWBWorshipcom and you can find that worship leader roundtable discussion, which hopefully will be beneficial to you.
Yeah. So, Josh, what are some ways a worship leader, since we're kind of on that mindset of worship leading, what are some ways a worship leader can be more prepared, not just through COVID times, but in general?
Mhm.
What are some things that you do that you found very practical?
So I think for us at Bethany, and really I think this could apply to anywhere, but everything, as John Maxwell says, everything rises and falls on leadership. And so as me as the leader, I've got to be prepared. If I'm not prepared, then there's no way I can expect my team to be prepared. And so, we try to think well in advance at Bethany. We're not just working on this week. We're looking at, what's happening next month or the next 3 months. And now with COVID, that obviously has changed a little bit, but in music ministry, I found what's helpful for us as far as preparation is to have a system in place where we basically do the same things at the same time every week. So that helps just to have a culture of we know when rehearsal is going to be, we know what time we're supposed to show up, we know when we're going to get the music, that sort of thing. So I'm usually penciling things in for a few weeks in advance. I've got a song in the back of my head that I want to try, or I'll hear something and I'm like, oh, we need to plan on doing that in the future. But like on a nitty gritty, we're basically about 10 days in advance. On Friday before the following Sunday, I send out the order of service. We use Planning Center services for our communication platform, and I send that out to our team. So they have that until Wednesday, and then we have rehearsal on Wednesday evening, and then of course service on Sunday morning. So they have about 5 days, 6 days to work on it before rehearsal, and then another 4 days or so to dial it in before Sunday. And so that has helped us. That we've tried to be consistent with that. They know when to expect it. They know they have plenty of time to work on their music ahead of time. And so we just try to stay prepared in that way. And then as far as like actually when they're here on campus, I try to just be prepared for them before they show up. So that means making sure that the sound system is turned on and ready to go before rehearsal starts, that the batteries and the microphones are replaced, and that the music, if we're copying music, the music is already copied. I don't want to waste their time, and I want to show them that I value them by having everything ready, everything prepared ahead of time before it begins. And so that means I have to stay 2 or 3 steps ahead. But that has been what's been helpful for us.
Yeah,
What about you? Go
you've
ahead.
said it a lot, and I love how your statement is that you always want to set your teams up for success and not failure.
Yeah.
And I think that's a true statement. And a lot of that, what you talk about in preparation, you touched on in how to plan a worship service as well. So I encourage you guys to go and check that out on FWBWorship.com. Josh does a great job outlining that and how he plans and prepares. Ours is much the same. We try to do a year in advance. In fact, coming up in just a few weeks, our staff will meet and really plan out what we can through the remainder of 2020.
Right.
And
It's
so
going to
we
get
do
canceled.
that's right. And so I guess that's the whole part of it is you do it with you pencil it in so it can be erased.
Yes.
That's the right way to say it.
Yes.
One of the things that we've challenged each other here at Peace, man, I've been encouraged. Sometimes when we plan too far in advance, we miss our checks and balances through the year of how it's going or what we're doing. So we've challenged each other to do a 12-week year, and we based that off of a book a couple guys wrote. And so during COVID, we've actually slimmed that to a 6-week year. And so we've had to really kind of nail that down. That's not just an overall staff goal, but a personal goal, ministry goal too. So we challenge each other to do that. Just preparation. It helps me to go through my checklist and say, by this week, I need to have accomplished this. And so when I meet those checks and balances, it helps me stay on task. So like you said, when I get a team, I think that's one of my biggest worries is when my teams come in, whether it's in rehearsal or even on Sunday morning, that I don't waste their time, that they feel like they're valued and what they're here is for a purpose. And I think that's really important. One other statement you make a lot, and I love it, is that a leader must go first and that they show up prepared. So in your mind, Josh, one of the things that you have even in your emails, I love it, is get better. So why do you think as a leader that's important to your team, that number one, as a leader, I want to be better, but also I want to go first? So what kind of precedent does that set for your teams, do you believe?
Well, I think the thing about get better is that it applies across the board. It doesn't matter if you have 2 people on your team or 200 people on your team. There are always ways that you can improve and not just like be a better singer or be a better worship leader, but how can you improve spiritually? How can you we talked a minute ago about our online presence. How can we make that better? And so that's just a question we ask regularly. What can we improve? What needs to be better? Realizing that we're not shooting for perfection, because none of us are perfect. We're going to fail. There's grace. But at the same time, we want to give our best. And so we're constantly looking at ways that we can improve. So for us, that means just honest evaluation. You can't get better unless you're willing to evaluate. And so sometimes that means having a hard conversation and say, you know what, that wasn't great. Just 2 weeks ago, I told you about when the stream stopped. That was just one of the problems that happened that day. We had, I'm not lying, there were probably 12 or 15 like things that went wrong on that Sunday. It was just a rough day. And I sent my team a text Sunday afternoon, and I said something like, well, that was, and then I put this, weird emoji. And I said, the good news is we can only go up from here. So, there are times when you just have those times where stuff just doesn't work the way that you'd planned or the way you'd hoped.
Sure.
So you just evaluate it. You just be honest with yourself, with your team, have a hard conversation and say, this wasn't great, but this is how we can improve. We can make this better if we work together. And
absolutely. I think as a leader and just being a leader, it's important to pray for your teams, to pray about what's going on. So, what role does prayer play in leading worship, Josh, in your opinion?
Man, prayer is everything. And I appreciate the question because you've been leading for a long time. You said 12 years and 6 years, so 18 years. I've been leading for 17 years. I mean, you and I, we know how to do church. Yeah. And probably if you're watching this video, you know how to do church. Like, you can do it in your own strength. And that is actually a little bit frightening to me because I realize if I do it in my own strength, it's going to last for this moment and that's it. Yeah. But what I want our music ministry, our worship ministry, to last really for eternity, to have an impact on eternity, not just this moment of what I can do. And so for us, prayer means that we are placing our dependency on God, off of ourselves and onto God. Randy's been our pastor's been at Bethany for almost 30 years. He knows how to do church. And so but we don't want to do it in our own strength. So we actually value prayer. We have 10 values, and one of those is prayer. We say it like this: we pray as if everything depends on it, because it does.
Yeah, that's good.
So prayer is vital. We pray before, during, and after. It's not just a thing we do to check off the list. It's a continual thing where we're constantly saying, Lord, we need you. We want you to step in here because we can't do this on our own. What about you? What kind of prayer, how has prayer impacted you, or what kind of emphasis do you guys place on it?
We we've always valued prayer in everything we do. I mean, that's like you said, we do church well. But I think sometimes the need has been expounded through this, obviously, of where we place our trust in God.
Mm-hmm.
We can plan and prepare and do everything right, and it turn out fine, and we can pat ourselves on the back and never regard God in the whole thing. But we found out that we have to do that first. And I think part of that is just how we've had to slow down during this time and do just that. Um, one of the things we've done in our ministry is on a weekly basis, we send out a weekly email of just needs of our members and stuff like that. And I'll be honest with you, sometimes it feels like we're going through a drive-through and asking God for all these things.
Right.
Um, and sometimes that's okay. We need to petition God on behalf of other people. We want Him to take care of needs. But God is more than that to us. He's our Father. He's our everything. And so one of the things we've implemented here on a weekly basis through our worship ministry particularly is we do a Facebook Live prayer time on Wednesdays currently. And so I have people join us. They send in prayer requests that we can pray for, maybe at that time during the live portion, sometimes before, and doing that. And so that's been good. It's been a good time to kind of hear our hearts. You guys have done something similar to that there at Broken Arrow as well, haven't you?
Yeah, so it wasn't just worship ministry. Basically, I just put an announcement on Facebook and said I'm going to have a prayer time for anybody who wants to. And I just post a Zoom link, and so now every Tuesday for about 45 minutes, we meet and pray together. Sometimes it's 4 of us, sometimes it's 12. It depends. There's different people will jump on at different times, but we just pray together, and a lot of times I'll read scripture, and every now and then they'll ask me to sing a song, and I'll reluctantly sing a song, and but it's been a really special time, that prayer time, because I've been able to hear other people pray and hear their hearts, and they've been able to hear me pray, and I've grown closer with them. And some of the people I didn't know really before this started, because I didn't interact with them. They weren't involved in
Sure.
music ministry in any way. So the prayer thing has been really, the Zoom prayer has been really beneficial for our church family and for me personally as well.
That's awesome.
So you mentioned about Kevin Justice being working on a video series on relationship between pastors and
Yeah.
worship leaders. What do you think is the most important thing that worship leaders, and by the way, when we say worship leaders, we're not just saying full-time
Right. Exactly.
staff people. I hope that we're communicating that. Like, if you are responsible for leading your congregation in singing, you are a worship leader. So if you're volunteer, like, how can I have a better relationship with my senior pastor if I'm a volunteer worship leader?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, main part of that is communication with that senior pastor, knowing his heart, knowing kind of the direction he's taking. And again, I think it falls back on our previous questions, just praying for him. Man, as much stress and stuff that we face getting music together or leading our teams, he has to do that for a whole congregation.
Right.
And so it's vital. Um, I've been under two pastors. Eddie was a great pastor to be with. We prayed together a lot. I knew where he was going. He gave me, I was very fortunate that I knew where his direction was going to be, from week to week on a message, so I could kind of map around that if I wanted to, if I
Mhm.
didn't. Communication was great. Rusty here at Peace, our senior pastor, he's done a great job as well doing that very same thing. And fortunately, now in my current position, Rusty was the former. Um, there was a guy in between us, but he was our former music pastor. So he's been in the exact same seat I'm in. He knows the challenges that I face. He knows what it's about, and so he's been very open in communication. That he loves me, and I know that. He prays for me. He loves my family. He asks about them often. We meet once a week to talk through things. I want to know his heart. Want to know where he's going in that. And if there's ever tension between us, we really have to clear the air, because that could be very detrimental. If I have one agenda on the stage, then he has another agenda on the stage that
Yeah.
doesn't mix.
Yeah.
So I heard in a conference a few years back how important it is that I am my pastor's number one cheerleader, and I know that he's mine as well. So when we're in our time of worship, he is worshiping, and our people see that, and that's very good. So it's like you said earlier, Kevin and his pastor are developing some videos about that we want to pass along to everybody. But from just this time now, it's important to us. I know
Yeah.
you and your pastor Randy have a great relationship as well. What have been some struggles that you faced, and how have you guys overcome those and built a strong relationship like you have now?
Yeah. You said that Rusty worships while you're leading. Um, I think the local church will only worship to the level that the senior pastor does,
Absolutely.
because they're looking to him for leadership. Even though you're called the worship leader, he's actually the lead worshiper. The
Yeah.
senior pastor is. And so if you're a senior pastor watching this, I just want to encourage you to worship, like be an example for your congregation on how to worship.
Yeah.
And Randy does that really well as well. And I I appreciate when he sits on the front row. I look down on the front row, and he's engaged and just experiencing God's presence, and that just is such an encouragement to me. So, I mean, I would say that's the first thing. If you want to have a good relationship, if you're the senior pastor, you want to have a good relationship with your worship leader, like worship and help to lead worship. You know, don't walk in 3 songs into the service. Like, I mean, I realize every context is a little bit different. Maybe you want to greet people as they're coming in late or whatever, but like, if as the worship leader, it does my heart good when my pastor's sitting on the front row ready to go before the first song starts.
Yeah.
And so I would encourage you to do that. I've been at Bethany for almost 10 years, as I mentioned. And when I first started, there were times I was frustrated with Randy. I would sometimes get very frustrated because he wasn't doing things the way that I felt like we needed to do them, or I'm a little progressive and he was holding back the reins, and so I would get frustrated. And over time, as I matured, Randy really hasn't changed very much, but I've changed. And part of that is understanding, as you mentioned, just the difficulty of being a senior pastor. I've been able to catch a glimpse of that,
Sure.
and understand just the difficulty of preparing a quality 40-minute message every week is very taxing. And then throw on that all the emotional and spiritual battles that you have as a pastor. It's a hard thing. And so if you want to have a better relationship with your senior pastor, give him more grace. I mean, that would be my biggest point. Give him some more grace. Like, treat him the way that you would want to be treated. Give him the benefit of the doubt. And so when I started doing that with Randy, our relationship improved. And I just came to understand who Randy is. I understand his abilities. I understand his limitations. And instead of me pushing him outside of his comfort zone, we just work within those boundaries. And he gives me a long leash, a really long leash to do what I feel like the Lord wants us to do. But I still submit under his leadership. And as a result, we have a good relationship. At least once we meet every week, but at least once a month we have a good heart to heart where we just talk about ministry, what we're struggling with, our family issues, anything that we are concerned about, and we're able to just connect on that level. And then we just do our best to work together each week to provide a quality worship experience for our church family. So
Yeah, that's good. That's really good. In our own right, we are pastors as well, and
yeah.
we have to shepherd. We've got a team that we shepherd. So, what are some practical things that you've done? What are some practical ways of to shepherd your team? What are some things that you've done that you've seen that have been successful?
Yeah, I think, and I want you to answer this question too, because I know you do really well with your team on this, but I want to make sure that we're clear that you can shepherd your team, you can be a pastor to your team, even if you're not paid. If you're a volunteer, that's part of leading. It's not just getting up and picking out a few songs. Like, you need to consider this as a ministry opportunity. And so some practical things that you can do, very practical, like find out everybody's birthday on your team. And when it rolls around, put it on the calendar. When it rolls around, send them a card, or at the very minimum, send them a text and say, "Hey, Bryan, I know today's your birthday. Happy birthday. I hope you have a great day. Thanks for all you do for us here at our church." I mean, that'll take you 2 minutes, and that'll mean so much to them. Also, thank you cards are huge. I actually have this rotation where once every 6 months, I send a thank you card to everybody on our team that I can. So I don't do them all at one time. I do, 3 or 4 a week, but twice a year. So twice a year, hopefully they get a thank you card from me. So I actually need to update that list now that I'm thinking about it, because we've added a few people to our team. That's the thing, you got to keep adding.
You're
So
right.
anyway, so thank you cards are great. Recognizing your team
Yeah.
for the job that they're doing, and we're not just talking about musicians. This can be your tech team too. Anybody who's helping in your music and worship ministry. So you probably don't have money to pay your musicians, but maybe you've got a little bit. Maybe let's say you have 10 people. Come up with $50 and get them all a $5 Chick-fil-A gift card or a gas card, and just give it to them just out of the blue, and just say, "Hey, I want you to know I appreciate you. Thanks for all you're doing here." That just means a lot to people. And it really is not about the amount. It's about the effort. It's that you thought enough to care for them and care about them. So those are just some little practical things you can do to encourage your team, to minister to your team, and really you're building relationships. And then when it comes time for you to need to minister to them on a more deeper level, like if there's a death or a sickness or something like that, you have that relationship built up where then you can step in and minister on a deeper level. What about
Yeah,
you,
that's
Bryan?
great. I mean, and you touched on that point very well, because I think when you live life in ministry, whether you're paid or volunteer, you're just coming in being asked at the last minute to step up and do, people look at you as the leader. And so it's very important. You live life with people. You see people pass away. You see people get married. You see babies being born. So you live life on that whole horizon
Yeah.
as somebody they look to. And so it's very important to reach out to just let them know that you care. And just that little bit of effort will go a long way. I mean, just think for yourself, if somebody does that for you, how important that is to you, and how it may brighten your day. You never know what they're going through.
Yeah.
So a simple text, a simple card, whatever that you can do, I think is very important. One of the things we're doing, and I try to do at least for my choir and even my whole worship team now, is that we're going through a Bible study together called Pure Praise by Dwayne Moore. And it is a focus for us on why we do what we do. It's not just a mundane thing that we just stick in as a random thing in the service. There's a purpose behind it. And so I'm hoping that when we can get back to more of a regular face-to-face meeting, we'll have times that we can discuss what we've talked about. We're doing that through text and Facebook and stuff now, but
Right.
just to having that general thing face-to-face is important. So at whatever level you're at in worship ministry, whether paid, volunteer, last minute, whatever, it's vital for you to shepherd that people, and that may be tough. That may be not an easy thing for you. It may be tough enough for you to just get the music together and lead people in singing. So I get that. It's important to bring people along with you that can help in that as well.
Mm-hmm.
And when they trust you, that's a big thing too, is just to build that trust in them.
Mm-hmm.
Man, they'll have your back no matter what. And that's very important too.
Yeah. We didn't talk about this, but I was thinking as you were talking, I'm learning whenever I reach a limitation, that is a signal for me that I need to hand something off.
Absolutely.
So, like if let's say you're a volunteer and you've got like 6 hours a week that you can put into getting the music ready and contacting your team and making sure everything's ready for Sunday. That's all the time that you have. Okay. But it's going to take you 10 hours to get it done. Okay. What is it that's a part of your ministry that you can hand off to somebody else? Maybe somebody else can make copies, or maybe somebody else can contact the team, or maybe somebody else can. There's nothing other than being a mom and a dad to your kids. There's nothing else that somebody else can't do.
Right.
So, somebody else could lead worship.
That's
Like,
right.
I don't have to be the only one to lead worship. So if I'm reaching a limit and I'm hitting the ceiling, that's an indication I need to hand something off. I need to let something go, give something, and empower somebody else to step into what God has called them to do. So
Absolutely.
that's a bonus tip. We didn't even plan to talk about that.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Bryan, for hanging out, and thank you guys for watching. And if you're watching this as a part of the National Association of Free Will Baptist, fellow Free Will Baptists, we want you to know we love you. On behalf of Kevin Justice and Doug Little and Dr. James Stevens, Bryan and I want you to know, and the whole Music Commission, we want you to know that we're here for you. We exist to help everyday people become better worship leaders. And we want to help you do that. So you can contact us at FWBWorshipcom. And be sure to jump on there regularly for more content, new content that's going to help you become a better worship leader. And thanks for watching. Be sure to like and share this. And also, if you haven't yet, go subscribe to our YouTube channel. Why haven't you done that? Go to FWBWorship.com/YouTube and subscribe to our YouTube channel today. Okay. God bless you guys.
Guys.